What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special variable GameCast. We are looking at our top game of 2018. Zach Lamotte on the couch to my right. How the hell are you doing?
I'm extremely comfortable.
I'm extremely cool.
Also a very loungy variable podcast.
Yeah,
a particularly loungy one.
Yeah, I'm down. Before we just peek behind the curtain, I'd asked Zach if he was going to be using the blanket the whole video, but the blanket was right up to his neck.
He thought I was kidding when I said yes.
He's just like, oh, I probably won't go right to my neck. I'll probably give it at least down to my mid chest.
Oh, okay, that's better. Also, for some extra context, Matt and I just got back from playing hockey, so
That's
we're
true.
pretty pooped out.
Yeah, pooped, and it was chilly. So we're actually looking at this year. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do just one main game of the year that we can talk about a little bit more in depth, and then we're going to do two dishonorable/honorable mentions. So however you want to structure it. So I'm going to go over both of my honorable mentions first, then I'll pass it your way. So my honorable mentions are Dragon Ball FighterZ. So real quickly, Dragon Ball FighterZ is a 2D fighting game that is gorgeous.
3D? Oh, well, you're just talking.
That's right. That's a 2D plane. So a 3D fighter, you can move into another axis. Totally. But yes, so it's just like I'm gonna put some footage up. Look at this game. It is absolutely gorgeous. And the for someone that's not a great fighting game person, I'm not great at them. This is such an easy one to get into. There's people that are so much better than me. Cabby, I'm looking at you. Top 500 in Northern Ontario.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I don't know if that's true. And then my other honorable mention is Red Dead Redemption 2. Maybe would have dethroned my number one, but I haven't finished it yet. I'm maybe about 15 hours in. I just got to Act 3.
And I beat it, so we can't really talk about it. But
right.
Yeah, amazing.
The atmosphere is so good.
Yeah,
so good. The Act 1 it had me hooked so much more than Red Dead Redemption 1.
Totally, yeah.
So
started with a bang.
How's yeah. Zach, I'm gonna fire it over to you for your cozy honorable mentions.
My loungy mentions?
Yeah, that's right.
Loungy mentions with Zach.
That's our new segment. That's great.
That'll work. People like that. People can relate to lounginess, right? Sunday night. Okay, so...
I guess I should have given the date. What's today? February 3rd? 4th?
3rd?
February 3rd.
Yeah, it's got to be
2019.
Yeah.
I should have given the timestamp. My bad.
Okay, so... Well, one of my honorable mention was also Red Dead, so let's get that out the way.
Perfect.
My dishonorable mention, well, I don't know, that's kind of harsh, especially because I've never played it.
Right.
But it's Battlefield 5. I just I watched the trailer. I kind of read some stuff about it, and it's harsh coming from me because I'm a huge war enthusiast, right? So for me to dishonorably mention this game is kind of a big thing. Because I play the crap out of all World War II games, even if they're not the best or not very well reviewed. So it's something I probably will still pick up. But I was so excited when they announced it, and then I watched the trailer and everything, and it kind of fell apart. It's
fine, to be honest. I've played the campaign and a little bit of the multiplayer. And I feel like game wasn't quite finished, and they needed to get it out the door for 2018. Right. They even had a battle royale mode that was supposed to be included at launch that they pushed out to the spring.
See, and that's exactly Sorry. we can say that one.
Sit down. we got.
How much time do we have?
So we'll actually record maybe the podcast on something
that's a good idea,
in reflecting of in memoriam of 2018 and look at something like that. But
or we could just do one on Battlefield 5. It's pretty fresh still.
Okay, yeah, we can do whatever we want. We own the company.
Wow.
Yeah, we did it. We make all the choices.
Can't wait to get all that money.
I'll check the accounts and I'll send you your check.
Send you a check.
Yeah.
Negative $10.
You owe me for the server costs.
Domain.
You're a computer guy. You should be knowing all these.
I programmed the domain.
See? Then you owe me $10. www.perfect10.ca .net.
You snagged that good.
Yeah. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for is Zach wearing pants under the blanket.
Yes, like the salivating dogs that you are.
Yeah. No.
Rated R.
Rated X.
The preceding footage
For eggs.
should not have been viewed by young children.
Okay, so
I need a nap.
I'm gonna go first, and this is the first year that we've actually had different games of the year. And again, for 2018, I am looking at you, God of War, and the reason for that's the PS4 exclusive. It's not quite a reboot of the franchise, but it's taking it in a totally different direction. It's continuing the story of Kratos, but instead of being, he still has the anger issues, but it's not just him shouting at the gods and ripping things in half. It's actually more of it's a smaller tale of Kratos and his son Atreus. And the storytelling in this game is absolutely phenomenal. It's so good. So they've swapped out like the ancient Greece setting and gone into Norse mythology, and it's again more of a more intimate story about him raising his son. Right at the get go, you'll see like kind of the reason like what their end goal happens to be. And one of the coolest things about the game is that it's completely one shot. There's no cut ever. So the camera is always behind you, and then so when the action it'll like pull out or however it wants to, but it never cuts. That's right, the whole game, and it's
Crazy.
like 20 hours long. So I know I've only been touching upon the story, but the combat is so good as well. So the God of War games for PS2 and PS3 have always been known for awesome combat, and this once again just reinvents what it is. So instead of it being just the Blades of Chaos where you're jumping up and spinning 1,000 times, destroying so many enemies, this one they really relied on this new weapon called the Leviathan Axe, and you could. One of the really cool moments is so you can throw the axe, but then there's a function you have to call it back. So you can throw the axe. Let's say it gets stuck in whatever, like an enemy, and then you finish off the last guy with your hands and you rip them apart, and then you carry on with the story and you go to the next area, and then the next enemy comes out and you push the button to like grab to attack, and you just punch. You forgot you left your axe in the last section of the game. You still do the function to call your axe back, and then you see him call it, but nothing comes, and he waits. You're and then he catches it.
No way.
And then the sound that whoever designed the sound of him catching the axe, it feels so good. It like the
Got a lot of axes, have you, Matt?
Yeah, I haven't swung an axe in years, but
I haven't caught an axe in years.
but so I imagine I just
Matt and I used to just toss around the old axe sometimes on a Sunday.
Oh, I forgot it.
Sorry, I'm sure Matt didn't mean that it was realistic.
This is not the evening I imagined.
Sorry, continue. I'll keep interrupting.
No, that's great.
I'm just kidding.
So it's just awesome from front to back, whether it's the gameplay or the story standpoint. It is so good. It is a 10 out of 10 game for me, and
Ooh.
it is just something that everyone has to experience.
Even if they didn't play the other ones?
You get a little bit extra if you do, but not much. Like the story is self-contained, and they kind of hint at. I guess there's a few points that I think you should know, but not really.
Would you say that's one could hop onto YouTube and watch like a catching up of the story?
You could watch like a God of War in 5 minutes,
and then you'd be fine. You could still give it a comfortable 10 out of 10.
Because it's subjective, I don't know. I don't have a frame of reference for that, but yes, I think that you will get, because the story is so intimate and such like a personal story. For like, there's a moment where, and this isn't like a major like giant spoiler or anything like that, and it's near the beginning as well, where your son Atreus, you can tell he's feeling like bad about a certain situation that just happened, and Kratos reaches out to like comfort his son, and then you see his hand go and he resists and he puts his hand down and he backs away because you'll learn like how that he's scared to pass on the traits because he doesn't care for himself as a person or a human being or anything, and he doesn't want to pass on these awful traits that he has to his son, and he's trying to keep his distance. And it just seemed so real in the sense of like a father trying to make a decision about whether to show like that kind of emotion to your son or whether to be like, no, like I'll just let him tough it out. And the whole story is super intimate like that, where it's nothing like there's some major set pieces that happen, but nothing that is such a spectacle from like the last few God of War games.
Wow, cool.
This one is just like really, really unreal great.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to play it. I will get it. I didn't.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I want to get it on sale. Video game budget is just getting lower and lower and lower over time.
It happens. It's all good, baby.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Like, I didn't play, just a quick heads up, everybody. I didn't play very many 2018 games at all, so don't listen to the things I have to say.
It's true. Don't listen to anything. You heard my 2018 pick. You could probably just
end her right there.
Yeah.
And then if you want to hear some incoherent rambling for 15 minutes or so, stick around.
That's the way to sell the product.
So they stick around.
That's
man,
great content.
for the honesty. We're up front.
But that's all I wanted to mention. Like for that's my pick. Again, it's a 10 out of 10. It came out earlier in the year, and I thought maybe the only thing I could beat it was Red Dead. And while that might still be, I don't think it's the case, but I think that had the greatest chance of beating God of War, and it's still like not even close. That's how good God of War is.
Ouch.
Zachary, I'm gonna fire it over to you for your top game.
But I haven't thought about the things I want to say yet.
For God of War.
I'm just kidding.
I'd say like I don't know. You're really hitting on the head when you're making fun of me catching axes. I thought you were getting everything out.
It would be funnier though if you like went outside afterwards and like got Jess to like throw you some axes or something. Like yeah.
You're gonna come to hockey tomorrow, and I'm like cut up like in like a few places.
Just on one side.
Yeah.
On your strong arm.
My strong arm.
My hockey arm. Okay. My pick for 2018 is Periscope Games' Postscriptum.
Zach, for the listeners, what is Postscriptum?
Postscriptum is a World War II shooter. Oh, that's
That
it.
is all. Yeah. And
Thanks for watching. So
like
like,
great choice.
all right. And I was just telling Matt about this right before the podcast. Like, I really should be selecting Red Dead as my top game. Objectively, I would, like, if I was giving these, like, real scores out of something that I would, like, recommend to other people, I would definitely go for Red Dead. And don't get me wrong, like, I had still, like, a profound experience with it. And it really should be my top choice. But I thought to mix it up, just in terms of, like, say, hours played.
Right.
Some of the amazing experiences I had that, I thought I'd give that shout out to that indie title. So Postscriptum, first of all, is built off of another existing game called Squad, which came out, I think, 2017 or 2016 or something like that. And it's known to be a buggy game, so this isn't necessarily even something I'd say run out and buy. If anything, like, I don't know, there's a way you could try it on your PC. Like, a lot of people tend to have issues running it. But if you could get in, it's working, it's not bugging out, it's not crashing every 5 seconds, all the settings work, everything works. I've had some pretty amazing experiences with it. So, like, the game has an infantry component, which is, again, like, it's supposed to be a very visceral, realistic look at, I guess, like, being a soldier in World War II. It's set in Market Garden, which is, like, the British versus the Germans in...
I thought the Americans were also part of Operation Market Garden.
They were. So the American Airborne I was going to move on to say that they did release additional content after their official release that had Vagel and a few other key maps that featured the United States of America. So they do now have the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne in there, and you could play them, and it's really great. You get to use all the American weapons and all that stuff, and a lot of people are really digging it. I come for the tanks. So what's really great about Postscriptum is it's one of the very few games on the market where you have to do some like real multi-crew tanking. Like, there is no Twisted Metal kind of like I'm controlling everything, including the turret and
Right.
going along and just sniping stuff. You really have to like work together as a team.
Right.
Cohesion is the number one most important thing. You've got more or less like legs, arms, and a brain, which are like divided between different people networked online. So there's never AI. There's never any controls that let you do any of this stuff. Like if you're choosing to be in a tank, you have to be matched with human players,
Right.
or else. I mean, I guess technically you could go from the driver's seat, park it somewhere, then hop in the gunner seat, and then try to find something to shoot. But it doesn't work, and
Right.
and that's been proven. Like I've actually been in matches, like say casual matches that are. I'll know right away if a guy is like trying to single crew a tank, but
Right. So for example, like that's probably also not a good idea because the idea of if you're the gunner or the driver, even like you have very poor like visibility, right, in terms of like what you
Yes,
can see, and same with the gunner, you have a very specific like cone of vision. It's limited. So having the tank commander be the person that's giving direction. So the tank commander does very little in terms of
that's right.
the actual like.
there's no like controls really.
Right,
Yeah.
except for kind of looking and giving like more direction in terms of seeing where your fire happens to be arcing or where to actually tell the crew to go.
Right. And actually, the more to layer on the difficulty, it's not only because the commander could see more. Like in fact, if you button up or like close your hatch in, you know your view like range, like you said, like your arc of vision isn't that much better than some of the other crew. Like yes, you're up in the turret, so you've got more of a sense of what's happening sort of behind the tank, but not much more. What a commander has to be is, again, like the brain of the tank. If you've got a gunner and driver trying to do their own thing, like they might see full well what's going on. But if your driver's making a snap decision to like nudge your whole tank over a bit and the gunner was like just ready to hit the fire button, you know, that shot's going to go way off because the driver decided to like jolt the gunner over. And now you've missed the target and now you've given away your position. Maybe they're a more talented crew and they just swing around and kill you. So yeah, where it gets more interesting is and kind of like frustrating at times is when I guess like from years of people playing games like Twisted Metal or War Thunder or World of Tanks or all the other I guess like more tanking games or vehicle combat games, is you're usually just one person controlling everything.
Right.
And this is one of the very few that I've ever experienced in games, period, not let alone World War II shooters, where that multi-crew is like, yeah, the only
Essential.
way you could tank. Yeah,
Right.
it's the most important thing.
For Postscriptum, I know it came out of early access.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just strictly like online multiplayer, or is there a campaign to it as well?
No campaign whatsoever. It's only multiplayer online. Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's
Just
not
to
even
kill 'em.
like, yeah, there's not even friend co-op against anything. I guess there's like a training ground,
Gotcha.
and then there's no like voice acting,
Gotcha.
nothing like that. It's a very bare bones like, you know, you get what you put into it. You
Right.
could have like the worst time or the best time, depending on like who you're playing with,
Right.
what time of day, like what kind of game you're looking for. So yeah, it's definitely, again, not something you're going to want to pick up and jump into if you don't even have, like, a few buddies that really want
Right.
to play. You know what I mean? Like, well, actually, there's the infantry component, and you know what I can say about Postscriptum is that their community is, for the most part, super awesome. So I've never played a game where so many times, you know, you run over to a tank and you're trying to figure things out, and then you, like, push the, like, chat to all around you
Right.
button to be like, guys, how do I do this thing? And, like, very rarely have I heard like, oh, friggin' noob or whatever.
Right.
Just like, you know, the standard stuff you deal with in online gaming. Like, most people so far have been like middle-aged, very mature, you know, like
Right.
very patient, very cool to like, also because they depend on it, right? Especially if it's a
Right.
tank. Like, I've been in so many tanks where I'm just like, guys, how do I shoot or like
Right.
something? And that would like sound ridiculous in most games, but like
Then you boot 'em.
that like person that's also in the tank kind of depends on you to do
Right.
your job well, right? So I guess all there is that selfish motive, but for the most part, I still find the community like very non-toxic.
Right. No, and I think that's super important. I did jump in on the free play weekend, yourself and your younger brother Al.
Yeah.
And then we had another gentleman, another friend of yours as well, that played with us.
Gregor's?
Yes, it was Gregor's. Awesome. Exactly. And it was cool because I got to try out driving as well.
His name is actually Craig. We call him Gregor's. Sorry, Gregor's.
No, he's fine.
Sorry, Craig.
Really? It's Craig? It's not Greg?
It's not Greg.
Uh-oh.
Okay, the whole story. Okay, this will make you feel better. The reason why we call him Greg is because he's like, okay, so our buddy Justin introduced Al and I to him.
Right.
And like, so we assumed that they were like friends and they'd known each other for a bit. And then like, they were all in like a chat together.
Yeah.
And then Craig was like, couldn't like remember Justin's name.
Right.
So like he got razzed so hard and we just started calling him like anything else but Craig.
Right.
So like it's kind of his ignorance that like created that nickname.
Gotcha.
To be fair.
Uh-oh, I've been calling him Greg. Like, and I've played with him multiple times.
I barely know him. I call him Gregor's. Greg.
Okay.
Like,
Well, that's good.
Old Greg.
Old Greg. Old Greg.
Stuff like that.
Well, so that's super duper.
Yeah.
I said it was really cool. Like, I had an opportunity to try the driving aspect and the shooting aspect. Like, I was a gunner. And then one of my favorite part of the night was when I was driving and then you were like guiding me like where to drive.
Yeah.
And there was the guy that was behind the sandbags.
Yeah.
And he's
like hidden.
Yeah, and he like, Matt, watch out for the guy in front. I'm like, yeah, but I just had no room for air to get by him, and then keep going on the bridge or I would have fallen off.
Yeah.
And then so I just went like. Like I just hit like a little bump. I was like, oh boy, I hope that was a sandbag. And then just like literally 2-3 seconds later, we got the sad face from that guy.
So again,
I'm sorry guy.
But like I feel like in most games, people like either would like rage quit or like give you so much crap in chat, but like that's all you got.
Just sad face.
It was almost like more penetrating to
I
the
know.
heart.
He was disappointed.
Yeah,
he wasn't mad.
He was sad. He wasn't angry about it. That's almost worse. It's so much easier to get over it if the guy's like, fuck you, man.
Right.
But
yeah, it's like, oops.
The hell was that?
I hope that wasn't a person. Please
Sad
be
face.
a bike. Yeah.
Johnny 584, just a frown. So good.
Oh man.
What else to note? Again, it was built off another engine, so pretty buggy, but the effects and audio are fantastic.
Awesome.
Like, freaking 10 out of 10. Good job on this indie company for producing such like the particle effects specifically, like smoke and fire and explosions.
Right.
And the audio, like when you hear a high velocity round ricochet off a piece of steel, and you hear the sparks flying and the impact of that, and then additionally you hear the shell go off into the distance, but it's wobbly, so you hear like as it like goes away.
Right.
It's just incredible because that's exactly how those things sound. Like I was watching stuff on like really nerdy sites about like them shooting like Pac 38s and Pac 40s, like German anti-tank guns, and off of different steel and how many inches of steel it'll penetrate and all that kind of stuff. When those rounds, like they're always kind of spinning, right? So if they get jarred or hit a piece of steel and get sent off into another direction, it very rarely just goes straight and continues with like a whistling sound. Instead, it's more of like a wobbling sound. So like all those little details I really appreciated, because that's one of the biggest reasons I go back to the game, is I could really, like, again, when you've got everything going on, your PC can handle the game, you're playing with, a unit or like a couple of buddies or something where you're not shy to, get some cohesion going inside, and you've got good graphics and good sound and everything is just so, then it's the most wonderful experience. But subtract one of those things and it's the worst experience.
Right. Thank you, Zachary. You hear that? Man loves his war. So those were our choices for our favorite games, our best of games for 2018. Again, we had our honorable mentions and our dishonorable mention, but congratulations, Postscriptum. What's the name of the studio that made Postscriptum? Periscope Games. And then Sony Santa Monica with God of War for reinventing a character that everybody just disliked and turned him into a character we felt for 20 hours. So congratulations to those two studios, and thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. Please tell us what your favorite games of 2018 are and what you're looking forward to in 2019. Anything to add there, Zachary?
Not at all.
Excellent. We're gonna get you a warm milk and put you right to bed.
Yeah, exactly. I need a nap. Snap time.
Yeah, snap time. Thanks everyone again for watching, and as always, see you on the field.
Bye.
Bye.